Good evening to one and all. Myself, Krishna. I'll be hosting your host for this particular session. So first of all, let me extend my heartfelt welcome to the guest speaker for the day, Dr.Brighton.A.Rose. And I also welcome all the participants who have come tonight. So before we begin the session, let me share some instructions so that we have a smooth sailing webinar ahead. So please, I request everyone to mute the audio while the speaker is presenting. And if possible, please do turn on your videos. If you have any questions, you can drop the questions in the chat box during the presentation as well. And if you would like to say any comments, give any feedbacks, or you have any queries that you want to raise yourself, that you can do during the question answer session, which will be towards the end of the session. And please note that a feedback form will be shared towards the end of the webinar, and e-certificates will be provided to only those people who have filled the form. So a brief intro about HigherEd for All. So HigherEd for All is a career guidance and counseling platform with a team of certified counselors and educators. Our mission is to help everyone to identify their strengths and their interests to make a career that suits them. So HigherEd for All offers educational counseling, career guidance, training, and other education-oriented services so that you could leverage your skills and achieve career goals. So we are committed to empower students from 9th to 12th grade, graduates, working professionals, and also companies. So we also provide assessment to escalate the relevant skills and knowledge you need to succeed. So you're in the right platform right now. I'll just share the screen. Just give me a minute. So talking about the webinar that we are hosting today, today's webinar is on the topic building self-confidence. So this particular webinar will help you to develop the skills and techniques that is necessary to build and maintain self-confidence in both your personal life as well as in your professional context. So we'll be learning the importance of self-confidence, common misconceptions about it, and personal barriers that can hinder self-confidence. So it will also cover practical techniques for building self-confidence, positive self-talk, visualization, and self-care. So with that, I introduce the speaker for today's session. Today's speaker, Dr. Brighton.A.Rose. He's the Assistant Professor of English at Kristu Jayanti College Autonomous, Bengaluru. He's a person with commendable academic records with his interest zones lying not only in teaching and research, but in content development, news writing, life skills, health, and fitness. So he has presented and published papers at various national and international levels, and he's keen on utilizing his skills and ability to work well for the progress of his community. So may I now request you to take over the session.
So thank you for the brief introduction, ma'am. So can I share my screen?
Sure, sir, you can.
Yeah, just a minute. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So good evening to everyone present here. So before moving on to our topic, so not just an assistant professor of English. Okay, I had a brief career before turning to be an assistant professor. So I'll start from that particular career of mine. So in my past career as a fitness coach, everyone wants to train with this. So okay, a fitness trainer is always someone who is at the aid of someone else, right? So so the people I have come across, their friends usually used to come up with this question called, okay, what is it that you require for training our friends? And okay, being a fitness coach, I'll ask them, okay, what is your friend good at? Okay, what does he have any background on that particular aspect and stuff like that, right? And I used to get replies that okay, he trains hard, okay, he is very much perseverant in whatever he does, right? He's good at things, right? But okay, technically, these are the last words that we look for. So the most important thing that we usually look for is self-confidence. How are you motivating yourself to be confident enough in building something? Okay, speaking from the perspective of building your fitness journey. So the most important skill that we usually look for as fitness coaches is something called a self-confident. So without that skill, okay, I would specifically use the word skill here because without that skill, we are useless. Why useless? In the sense we lose track of whatever we do. We lose track of our beliefs. We lose sight of whatever we are doing. Now, okay, I use the definition of self-confidence as it is the ability or the belief to believe in yourself to accomplish a particular task, no matter the odds, no matter the difficulty. The belief that you can accomplish that particular aspect is what I call as self-confidence. Now, moving on into our topic, I'd like to focus on two aspects when it comes to self-confidence. One is self-efficacy, and the other one is self-esteem. Now, what is self-efficacy? Yeah, so it's a belief in their ability, or it's a belief in the particular person's capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance attainments. For example, okay, we'll go with examples, right? Because examples are something that is easier to understand. For example, a person struggling with a chronic illness, but he feels confident that okay, he'll get back on track and improve their health by just working hard, okay, based on the prescriptions provided by the doctor. Even for a person pursuing his doctorate, for example, okay, for people pursuing their education, okay, this particular slide, okay, is something relatable to you guys, right? So when we are starting with our PhD, okay, we'll specifically focus on PhD, okay. So when we are starting with PhD, so our confidence level will be pretty much higher. Then it drops and drops and drops unless you have this potential, or unless we have this ability to overcome all these hurdles, right? You are going to definitely drop off. So this is what we mean by self. We will come back to this particular topic before moving on to self-esteem, right? Now, what is self-esteem? Now, there are different definitions for the same. Okay, so this is by the National Alliance of Mental Health. Okay, so self-esteem is how someone perceives themselves, right? So we'll make it simpler. It is how we value, how the individual value themselves and perceive themselves, our opinions, our beliefs, and okay, all these things affect our self-esteem. In other words, the sense of confidence in a particular person's worth or abilities. Now, what are the certain characteristics when we focus on when we speak about self-esteem? First is okay, a very firm understanding of one's skills, right? Okay, the individual, okay, she should have a very much confident or have a clear understanding of what he is supposed to do. Second, okay, I would consider the second point as something that is very much important when it comes to self-confidence. That is the ability to maintain healthy relationships. But the question is, are we really maintaining relationships? Okay, we are maintaining relationships, but is that relationships healthy? It's another very big debate to have on, right? So the third point that we'll focus on is the expectations that we have. Is it realistic or appropriate? Everyone has expectations, but is it realistic or is it appropriate? The fourth is understanding of one's need and the ability to express needs. So it's not just restricted with the particular individual. right? It's not just the ability of that particular person, so but the other person who is in contact with, right? Now, okay, people may suggest different ways of improving your self-esteem. Okay, before we move on to the slide, right? So, can someone from the audience tell me, okay, what we mean by low self-esteem? So, these are the characters when it comes to a person with a with a good self-esteem. Now, okay, analyzing this, can someone tell me, okay, what are the things that are in place when we speak about low self-esteem? That is just the opposite of this. Can I have someone from the audience tell me, okay, what it means by, what it defines a particular person with a low self-esteem? Okay, so I'll move on. Okay, so this is something that we prevalently see among audience, right? Okay, so you may believe others than you respect others than you place someone else before you. Now, the second thing that we usually see when it comes to a person with low self-esteem is you experience fear, you experience self-doubt. Okay, these qualities are something normal, but you experience these on a regular basis. You experience fear, you experience self-doubt on a regular basis. Now, okay, so this is another very important thing. You mostly people with low self-esteem will have a negative outlook on life. Okay, every aspect that they see, every aspect that they analyze, it's seen from a negative aspect. Now, okay, another very important thing is that you have trouble setting boundaries. So boundaries is a must in every aspect that we discuss. When it comes to personal relationships or when it comes to professional relationships, setting boundaries is very important. You should know where to say yes, where to say no. On worst cases, even there are chances of people developing mental illness, anxiety, depression disorders, and even suicidal tendencies are something common with people with lower self-esteem. So this is one side of self-esteem, so which is not good. Now the other side, that is what will happen if a person with excessive self-esteem is seen around. What about people with excessive self-esteem? Someone with a higher quality of self-esteem. Again, people with excessive self-esteem, okay, they exhibit characters, okay, that is, they always prefer overestimating their skills. Okay, they have, okay, we also see people who are defensive of whatever they see, whatever they express, they see, okay, they say it is the ultimate thing. And okay, even believing in the fact that they cannot fail, which is also dangerous, which is also dangerous. So both the stages, that is lower self-esteem as well as people with excessive self-esteem, is equally dangerous. Now, how do you improve self-esteem in a more practical way? Now, okay, every people will have their own inner critic. Now, this inner critic will tell you what you should decide. Now, who is this inner critic? So whenever we have a conversation on a particular topic, the first thing that we come across is our own mind, is our own thought process on that particular subject. And the thought process that we usually have regarding a particular subject is mostly negative. So this is why this point called says stop to inner critic. Now, take a 2-minute self-appreciation break. In other words, appreciate even the minute things that you do. Right? Okay, next point is just a continuation of the second point. Write down 3 things in the evening that are appreciable about yourself, right? Having a positive outlook regarding oneself. Now, the fourth point is people usually go for perfectionism. And when they are not able to attain that state of perfectionism, that may lead them into state of anxiety, that may lead them into state of fear, sadness, all these emotions come in. Now, okay, instead of going into perfectionism, you can go for something called as, okay, this particular thing is good. This particular thing is good enough. It's not bad. Now, the fifth point is also very important. Be your own best friend. At the end of the day, okay, so this is another thing that people usually say, okay, at the end of the day, you matter. So be good to yourself, be your own best friend. And to an extent possible, be kinder with the other people around because we are not sure what they are going through. Be kinder with people. And so this is another skill. It's a skill. Actually, we started off with saying that self-confidence is not a quality, it's a skill, right? So coming back, you can try something new. So you can, or in other words, you can engage with something. And so this is something that is really bad when it comes to any relationship. So we have the habit of comparing with someone else, which is again going to affect our own inner health. Then keep yourself with people with supportive thoughts, or in other words, I'll use the word keep yourself with people with positive aura. If you surround yourself with this particular positive aura, you kind of become more positive. You get their spirit, you get their positiveness towards you, which is good because the ultimate purpose of self-esteem is that it's something called as, okay, so this is Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs, right? So wherein the fourth stage is self-esteem or knowing much about yourself, and the fifth stage is self-actualization. And the ultimate purpose of self-actualization, okay, I'll use it in a word called happiness. So happiness should be the ultimate purpose of life, right? Without happiness, whatever we do, whatever we come across, at the end of the day, it's much of nothing. Now, okay, why is building and being able to maintain self-esteem so important? So when you learn this quality of exhibiting good self-esteem, your life becomes simpler. Or I'll use the word, okay, it's a free-flowing life. Right? Okay, we don't take anything that is more than what is required into our hearts, right? So in a way it's flexible and you are capable enough of dealing with any subject in a more relaxed manner. So when we do that, we have something called as inner stability. Inner stability is that, okay, you know what you're doing, you have the control over your thoughts, you know where to talk, you have control over your emotions. So everything is in place. Now, the third point is when you do this, you'll become more attractive towards any relationship. You know where to keep people, right? You know your circle, you know how to engage with people, and the ultimate purpose, you'll be much more happier than you were before. Now, okay, I know that many of you will be having this thought like, okay, all these qualities, great. I don't have it. I'm shy to express. I never do this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and start to drag yourself down. So this is why I use the word skill, because I believe that this thing called self-confidence can be trained. Now, what is the easiest way to build self-confidence? No, again, I'll ask the question in a different way. Is there an easy way to build your self-confidence? Yes. Now there is no magic button when it comes to building your self-confidence. Repetition, repetition, repetition. So it's all about repetition. Okay, you might have heard about this 10,000 hour rule by Malcolm Gladwell. There is no magic button. The problem is that we expect to be self-confident, but we can't be self-confident unless a skill is put through pressure. Now you know that how diamonds are being made. Diamonds are made under high extreme pressures. So whenever we are making a speech, for instance, whenever we are making a speech, so it'd be like I did my speech and practice in front of the mirror. I'm sounding great. Then I went in front of my friends. Oh God, I'm a bit nervous. Then I went in front of my class. Oh my God, I'm a bit more nervous. Then I go on to address a session which has more than 100 people. But I don't feel a bit of nervousness because of my ability to practice more and more and more again. Now, there is even a problem with repetition. Now, what is the problem with repetition? We'll be answerable to a few questions. How many of them leave after the first bit of adversity? How many leave after the first bit of failure? Now, you might have heard about Harry Potter tales, right? So, I guess you are familiar with J.K. Rowling. But you're not familiar with how many publishers did she approach. Okay, I guess it's around 12 or 13. She approached before getting her novels published. Now, repetition. I'll bring this particular word into a word called perseverance. Now, I guess you are familiar with J.K. Rowling. Now, the other is Muhammad Ali. And the third person is Kevin Durant. So, okay. Muhammad Ali is one important person I respect the most, right? So these people are just a few among the lots who can be used as examples for perseverance. To start with J.K. Rowling, we discussed how before her publication of Harry Potter, she was a normal woman, normal J.K. Rowling. No one in the world have ever come across this name called J.K. Rowling. Only because of Harry Potter, she was known to the world, and only she know the perseverance she put in before getting her work published. The same as with Muhammad Ali. But one thing that we can admire in Muhammad Ali is that he had a very high self-affirmation. We'll come back to that later. Moving on to Kevin Durant. His story can be considered as a good example of perseverance. Okay, maybe I'll add Michael Jordan to him later. But why is because, okay, during his young age, her father left him. When he was like 7 years old, his father left him and he was taken care of by his single mother, who found it really hard in even providing his school fees. But Kevin Durant was taller. Even during his school age, he was like 6'3", and he was interested in basketball. And only because of his skill set, only because of his perseverance of the game, he turned out to be one of the biggest and greatest basketball players ever playing in the basketball NBA history. Now the question is, if he was not that perseverant, or if J.K. Rowling left searching for publishers after looking for like 2 to 3 publishers, you would have never come across Harry Potter. We would have never come across those movies. You would have never even remembered names like Muhammad Ali and Kevin Durant. Now we'll come to the part of how do we build this particular thing called self-confidence. Now, can self-confidence be trained? I told you that, okay, self-confidence is a skill that can be nurtured. So it automatically answers this question, it can be trained. And we started off with what it means by perseverance. So repetition. So whatever you are doing, constant progress, constant effort will ultimately provide you with results. Now, what are the other things that we can do? So this is a 10,000 hour policy or 10,000 hour rule, to which I use the word called perseverance. Now, the second thing which is very important when it comes to building your self-confidence is that you should know to get away from people who are going to tear you down. Okay, I'll quote it from my life. There was a time when I had a friend who was very much fat. Now you know that what will happen to a person who is fat. People will be making statements like, okay, you might have some health issues, you might have some other issues that is related to why you are fat, they body shame you. All these thoughts will definitely affect the particular person, and which in turn is going to put this particular person down. But unless and until he is going to step on that hurdle, which he did, which this particular friend of mine did, and okay, he came successful to an extent. But these failures along your path are just hurdles. Okay, they'll be there for a brief period of time. Now, what can we do about it? What can we do about these hurdles? Okay, so this is where the first basic thing called self-affirmation comes in. Okay, what do we mean by self-affirmation? Affirm yourself at every possible juncture, okay, that you can do it. Like, okay, so this is something that I do. So I used to write a letter to myself. Like, okay, so this is something that I did. So once I got my PhD, I was like, okay, Brighton. So I'm writing a letter to myself. Brighton, congrats on getting your PhD before you turn 30. Brighton, congrats on losing 100 pounds. So I wrote a letter of self-affirmation to myself of what I'm proud of. Now, why do we write a letter? So, okay, why do we self-affirm ourselves? The basic thing is because there will be moments that we experience in our education, in our relationship, when we are not going to feel good. When, okay, we feel like, okay, we are kind of losing everything, right? Okay, our life is kind of lost, right? So this particular letter or this particular self-affirmation is help you attain that particular state, right? Okay, because you'll be going back to state that, to make a point that, okay, all these positive things is something that I did, right? By self-affirming yourself, right, you can kind of motivate yourself to face this particular hurdle. Again, it's just a hurdle. So another way of building your self-confidence is something called a self-talk. I told you that at the end of the day, people will be there to help. But more than all the people, you should have a friendly relationship with yourself, the person that is yourself. And I told you that is one of the important ways to build your own self-esteem. Now, okay, what do we mean by self-talk? We all will have millions of thoughts running around our head. Okay, right now in this discussion, you'll be having the questions like, okay, this particular person shouldn't ask anything to us in particular. This particular person shouldn't pinpoint us regarding anything related to the subject, right? So there are like millions of thoughts that is going on in every person. But the point is, most of the self-talk is usually negative. As the question that I put in front of you, this particular person is going to ask so many questions. Okay, the point is, there are enough people around us to tell us that we are not good enough, to tell us that we are not capable of doing things. Now, why do we have to tell ourselves the same thing? Because there are people to tell you that. There are people to pull your leg. There are people to tell you that, okay, you're not going to do this, because people did that to me. Okay. So, okay, I told you that, okay, I was one of the person who lost around 50 pounds. Okay, not exactly 50 pounds, around 80 pounds. Before I lost, there were like millions of people telling me that, okay, you're not going to do it. citing many reasons. Now there are like million people around you to tell you the same thing. Now why do you have to tell yourself the same thing? The thing, what happens when we do that is that our thoughts will definitely affect our action. When we do the negative self-talk to ourselves, it's going to affect us in a very negative way. That is where self-affirmation comes in. Okay, I told you something on Muhammad Ali. You know what his self-affirmation is? So, okay, the usual statement that he uses is, I'm the greatest. And there is no one around me to beat me in any terms. So this is his kind of self-affirmation. Now, everyone has to have the same self-affirmation. I am the captain of my ship. I'm the master of my fate. So this is my kind of self-affirmation. Now, I had to bring my letter again and again and again, reminding who you are. Because we are normal human beings. There are chances that we are going to let ourselves down. There are chances that we won't be able to do things. Now, only thing that is going to help is our own self-affirmation. Now, you might be familiar with Lance Armstrong. Okay, or in other words, you might remember the brand called Live Strong. Okay, before going into the brand, Live Strong is the kind of self-affirmation that Lance Armstrong had. Why? Because Lance Armstrong is one of the winners, one of the 7-time winners of Tour de France, or he was a great cyclist who was affected by cancer. He was a cancer survivor who went through the 4th stage of cancer, came back, fought another battle, won another Tour de France, or won another title in his career. So this is his self-affirmation before it became a brand. Nowadays, people know Live Strong as a brand, but it isn't just a brand. It is a self-affirmation. It is his self-affirmation to remind him that who he was. Now, these are things that you can do in order to build your own self-confidence. Now, what do we mean by reaffirmation? Okay, so reaffirmation is another thing that we can do in order to build self-confidence in others. In other words, catching them when they are good, not criticizing them at their problems, not criticizing them at their mistakes, but affirming them, okay, whatever you did here was good. Okay, as a basketball coach, I remember my college coach telling his students, right? So what you did on the previous day was better, but today you would have done it more better. So so what he is doing is he's not pulling his confidence level to its minimum, but in another way, he's trying to build up his confidence so that he'll perform better the next day. Right? So reaffirmation is very much important in order to build confidence when it comes to the other person. Now, the important thing, we are all normal people, but we are supposed to be different. And when people look to us, they should feel something else. They should believe us. They should feel the sense of self-confidence at the first look at this particular individual. So for that, you should believe in yourself, right? So with this, okay, I have a few questions for you, right? So okay, you can answer this. So which will help us identify the level of confidence that you have at the present, right? Okay, so do you want to believe to be right, even if it's criticized for, or are willing to take risks, or willing to admit your mistakes and learn from them, extort your views, or the other side? You govern your behavior based on what others think. Stay up in your comfort zone. Work hard to cover up your mistakes. Wait for others to congratulate you. Dismiss compliments. So answering these questions will give us a hint of our level of confidence. But I told you that self-confidence is a kind of skill which can be nurtured over the time. With this, I end my session, and over to you, the participants, for questions.
So there are a few questions in the chat box.
Okay, let me have a look at them. Not having enough confidence to present yourself. Okay, which is Harshita. Okay, so which is something natural. Okay, that's the reason why I called confidence as a skill, because you have to do it again and again. Whatever we find it difficult, we have to go back again and again, do the same thing. Mistakes are fine. Feedbacks are fine. Feedbacks are very much important when it comes to doing something new, right? But you have to do it again and again. Hope I have answered your question. But does not luck play a huge role in their success? But affirmations culture often neglect reality. Or okay, I'll answer the first question. On a personal note, okay, I'm not someone who answers that question as okay, there is something called as luck. It's your hard work, it's your perseverance, right? Example of Michael Jordan, right? Okay, so many of you might be familiar with who Michael Jordan is, or okay, so he's one of the greatest basketball players in the American history, right? So he lost his college scholarship. Thing is, okay, he was one of the best basketball players in his college, and he lost his college scholarship. If he had believed in luck, he wouldn't have worked harder to get back into NPA, because getting into NPA is a big thing. So I don't think that luck has much. Maybe there are exceptions, maybe there are factors adding to it, but not just luck. Maybe their perseverance also play a very important role when it comes to their success. But affirmations culture often neglect reality. So affirmation, okay. So when it comes to self-confidence, the ultimate purpose of self-confidence is something called as, okay, I believe that it's called as happiness. To what extent have you achieved happiness? Being confident. Happiness is not just material, right? It can be also your state of mind, right? So I believe that, okay, affirmations has a huge role to play in building your own peace of mind or happiness. Being happy with whatever you have done. Affirming yourself that you have come a long way. So it's another important way of tackling any situation. Even if it's a worse situation, that you'll be reminded of how I was in the previous state, the journey that I have come across. So all these will help you with coming up in life. So there is another question: do you agree with hustle culture? What's your take on it? I think it often leads to burnout and stress. Okay, first of all, okay, I place on record that, okay, I'm someone who believes that, okay, the peace of or the state of mind is more important than hustling around. Yes, hope I have answered your questions.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
It would be better if the participants can unmute yourself and ask your queries, because I think it would help the speaker to understand the question better. So if Katrina Joseph, if you could unmute yourself and ask your query, I think the question would be more clear. If not queries, you can also comment upon the session or give your feedbacks or viewpoints. If there are no more queries, shall we wind up the session? You could really use this platform to have a discussion, and I'm sure the speaker would be able to clear your doubts or participate in the discussion. We would be interested to do that. So as there aren't any more queries, we'll take it as an official call to wind up the session. So at this moment, I would like to thank the speaker, Dr.Brighton.A.Rose. So I'm sure that all the participants would benefit from the valuable inputs that you have provided here, especially the practical knowledge that you have provided, like questioning ourselves. That should be the first step that we should take in order to build self-confidence. So thank you for that, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for having me here.
And I also thank all the participants for participating. It was you have contributed to your valuable time with us, and hope you have benefited from it. And thank you for the questions that you have posed and raised in the chat box. So with that, we come to a conclusion of today's session. Before concluding today's session, let me remind you that there is a feedback form that you have to fill. Yes, sir.
Actually, your voice got interrupted in the midst.
Yeah. Okay. Hope it's clear now.
Yeah.
Okay. So before concluding the session, let me remind you that there is a feedback link that have been sent in the chat box. Please fill the feedback form, and you will be given e-certificates only if you fill the feedback form. And hope that you all would be participating in the coming webinars also, hoping that the same enthusiasm and support will be there in the future events held by HigherEd for All. Good night, everyone.